My name's Winston from Zound. Today I've got a really special guest. He's a DJ, producer, co-owner of Ava Recordings. He's got a new album coming out called Beside You. Really excited to welcome Samna. Thanks so much for joining us.
Hey Winston, thanks for having me. How are you? You staying safe?
Yeah, staying safe, man. How are you?
I'm good. Bored. Staying in, but yeah,
Yeah,
otherwise safe.
making some good music that we can look forward to.
Yeah, making music. Moved my DJ setup into my studio, as you can see behind me, just to do some like live streaming and stuff. Normally it's in a different room, but yeah, move that in so I can hook it up to my studio PC, which you probably can't see because we're facing the other way right now. But yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. So today I kind of just wanted to talk about, your journey and how you got to where you are today, because obviously you've accomplished quite a bit in your career, considering that you're the co-owner of Ava Recordings. So how did you get started, and what got
I've been involved with music for a really, really long time, but I guess before I even got into dance music, I played like violin and guitar and drums and stuff like that. So like it's been a big part of my life. But around like 2001, I went to my first rave, and that was really good. It was different back then as well too. But then around like 2003, I bought my first set of turntables, which were a pair of Gemini PT 2100s. They were direct drives, but they were like not that great. But started to mix vinyl and stuff, and then around like 2004, I picked up a copy of Cubase, Cubase SX, and started to write some music. So like I kind of started off as a different alias before I started Somna, but I used to make hard dance as a roadie style, and that kind of like took off for me. I started to do some touring, and then trying to condense it as much as possible. But then like I moved out to the UK, and I lived there for 5.5 years, and I was signed to like a label called Tidy Tracks, and did a lot of shows and stuff. So I played like Global Gathering, Creamfields, played Ibiza a few times, and it was good. It was good fun. But then in around 2000 and oh, so I'm from Canada. For people that don't know, so I was going back and forth between Canada and UK a lot because I had to renew my work visa like every 3 months. So it was a real pain in the ass. And it so happens that when I was on tour back in Canada, I met my wife in Vancouver at a show. She also DJs as well too, and she was performing before me. And then now I am married and back in Canada now, so I'm living in Vancouver now.
what got you into that transition from DJing to actually producing music and making music?
Um, it's not a super exciting story. It was just kind of like I started to want to DJ because when I was at events, sometimes the DJ would not be playing music that I enjoyed. So I was like, you know what, I want to be up there playing it because then I can play all the songs that I like. So then that's kind of what prompted me starting to DJ, and then from there I started to produce music. Um, Kind of because it was like, you know what, I really like to be able to play my own music and ideas in my own sets. And honestly, if you want to build a name, you need to start writing music. So kind of transitioned into that, and that's kind of like why I started writing music. And it was like hard dance music at first, and then in 2011 I started to write trance more like full time because like I dabbled a little bit in trance way back before 2011, but 2011 is when like Somna began.
So you said you started in Cubase. You still work in Cubase right now, right?
I do, yeah. It's up to like 10. Well, it's 10.5 is out now, but I haven't upgraded to 10.5 yet. I'm still in 10. Um, yeah.
Yeah. So, what did starting to learn production look like for you? How did your workflow look like then versus now? How has that kind of evolved?
Um, well, so a lot of like my older colleagues that produce music, they come from a time when they had a lot of outboard synths, and they had to, hook everything up by MIDI. And um, I kind of joined when it started to be all produced in box, like in the computer. I did have a synthesizer. I had a Roland Alpha 2, Roland Alpha Juno 2. I still have it. I don't know if you can see in the video, but it's like over there.
Yeah.
Um, I bought it, and I used it 2 times in a song. It's a great synth. It's kind of like the original Hoover machine, which is a really popular sound in hard dance. Um, but then it's been sampled to death that like there's already a high quality sample that someone's meticulously sampled from the synth onto the computer. So what I ended up doing was like I would use some of the patches in the Roland, and then I write it, and then I find a better sounding, higher quality sound from a soft synth um, in my computer. So then, yeah, but I don't want to sell it because it's vintage. And it's like a
Yeah,
couple.
so for those who don't know, soft synths, those are synths within the DAW that you're working within, right?
Yes, yeah, that's correct. Yeah, they're yeah, software synthesizers. Um,
Awesome.
yeah.
Yeah, so in terms of workflow, generally, do you start with a melody or a vocal you really like? Because I know you have quite a bit of vocal tracks, right? I mean, where do you start? And is it the same every time? Is it different?
It varies a lot. It kind of depends. So like for the vocal stuff, there's usually like one of 3 ways where it happens. The first way is I will write a complete or almost complete song with enough space on there for a vocal, and then I'll send it to vocalists I want to reach out to and see if they'd be interested in collaborating and writing a vocal on top of it. So that's one way, and that's how some of my songs like uh, Story Untold came about that way. Um, what else came about that way? There's not much coming to mind right now, but yeah, there's a bunch that have been worked around that way.
So
And then,
if you have
sorry.
an idea for a vocal, do you kind of, I don't know, sing it yourself into a microphone and write a melody over that and then send that to the vocalist afterwards? Or
Um, I can't sing like really poorly, so I will usually just like key out some notes in the piano as to how I can envision the singing to be like. Um, but to be honest, the vocalists I work with are all very, very talented. And I prefer to just kind of like give them a track, give them like free reign to work on it. And then from there, I'll give suggestions if it needs to be, if there needs to be any tweaks and suggestions to go about it. But my strength is not in the writing aspect of like the singing aspect. So I prefer to let the professional handle it, like someone that writes like lyrics and singing for like living. But we'll bounce back and forth.
as you're working like through a project, are you super picky about the mix as you go along, or do you just kind of grab a bunch of sounds you like, get the track together, and then do like a super long final mix down at the end? Like, what does that kind of look like for you?
It's a bit of both, actually. I will kind of mix as I go along, but I focus more on the arranging and writing of the song before I really stress myself out over the mix down. So I'd say like for a good, portion of the song when I'm writing it, it's just I'm just putting ideas. Like usually I just start off with like bass and then kick, and then I work my groove, and then I work the melody before I start arranging it. And then I start arranging it. And then once I've got something that I'm quite happy with, then I'll start to add in the additional effects, the sweeps and the fillers and stuff like that. And then I'll start to mix it down more. But usually I like to try to the track, finish the track before I do the mix down, because I think if I start to dive into the mix down too soon, I'll lose my creativity because I'll just get so hung up on making everything fit. And I'll feel like, oh, this kick sounds like garbage, and then I'll just be like hung up on that for like a couple days. And I think that's a fast track of binning the project or just putting it on hold for a while. So I find that helps me with keeping consistent with getting stuff done.
Gotcha. So again, no limiter on the master channel. You want to build the track as quickly as possible, get that arrangement out, and then wait till the very end to kind of get that mix down in. Although you are, getting it to sound pretty good within the mix.
Hmm.
as you're going, right?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. To be honest, at the end of the day, it's whatever works for you.
Hmm.
That's like my process. But I know some people that will put a limiter on it as well too when they're working, and there's nothing really wrong with that. I think I do think they should take the limiter off when they're doing the mix down. But if it helps them, get to where they want to go in the long run, then it doesn't really matter.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So I know you do a lot of gigs, and I met you through Zound. We chatted a little bit, right?
Mhm.
And I know hearing protection is really important to you. Do you use earplugs at gigs? What has that been like for you?
Yeah. So earplugs is super, super important, and I've been going to concerts and events for a really long time. So I'm fortunate that like I got a pair of like the molded custom ones
Mhm.
when I was younger, and with the filters, and I use them all the time when I go out to shows. Um, and then it's nice to have like some of the disposable ones, or ones that sound better than like the little foam ones for sure. So
Right.
like the
Mhm.
ones that Zound makes, because those are great. They're portable. If you lose them, it's not the end of the world. My molded ones, if I lose those, it's like $200, which kind of sucks. So yeah, I have a pair of like uh, I have a pair of like the Zound ones that
Mhm.
are really great because then I can just keep it in the car, or like keep it in my backpack. So if I forget to bring my molded ones, then those are perfect. Or, the molded ones they're molded to my ears, but they tend to be a little bit uncomfortable at the same time because they're so like big. Like because they kind of like take up the whole ear channel, and they go really deep as well too. So they sound great, but they're a little bit uncomfortable. So sometimes having the like the ones like the Zound ones where it's kind of like it looks like a little Christmas tree.
Mhm.
When you want to just like go to a club and talk to people and be able to take them in and out of your ear as you talk to people, or just leave them in actually because they sound great. Is that you can just if you lose them, it's not the end of the world. And if I take my molded ones out of my ear and in and out and accidentally like squeeze it and the filter pops out, then it's like that's expensive for the replacement. So, but back to like hearing protection, I think it's super important. You just don't get your hearing back once you when you lose it. So, um, yeah, you got to protect it. Especially for me when I'm writing music, if I don't protect my ears, it's like my job. So, and my career. So, um, yeah.
So, any tips for, I mean, controlling volume within the studio, or if you've got, a pair of headphone monitors? I mean,
Mhm.
do you leave the sound at a certain volume and just like, keep it there the entire time? I mean, what are some best practices for producers out there, when creating music?
I don't. Like the volume fluctuates as I work on stuff because, I try to produce at a moderate level, but
Mhm.
then, when you're trying to get excited and you want to hear it like louder and stuff, then I'll definitely turn it up. I think the key is just to not have it up all the time. But, there's nothing wrong with turning it up as long as you're not just blasting your ears like nonstop for hours and stuff. So I think just be smart about it. I will produce in my headphones at night sometimes, and I do enjoy sometimes cutting off the rest of the world with like my headphones and working on music. But I think yeah, that working in headphones is more dangerous for sure because that's the one where like I'll turn it up, I'll feel it, and then I'll accidentally just I'll forget about it and I'll just leave it at like a high volume as I produce. So I think my advice to producers that use both monitors and headphones is to try to limit the amount of time that you're in your headphones. There are instances where you have to use your headphones to produce, and that's fine. Just try to keep in the back of your mind. Maybe set a little timer on your computer that just reminds you to like take a break or turn down the volume and let your ears take a rest or something like that.
Yeah, good tips. All right, so you started in the early 2000s, you're learning how to produce music, uh, and all of a sudden, we're working with Ava Recordings. How did that start? How did you get involved with Ava?
So I sent in a couple demo tracks to Ava Recordings before I was involved, and it got signed. I got a couple tracks signed, and this was when Ava was under Armada Music. Like Ava's always been independent, but they were using Armada Music as a distributor for a while. And I was asked by Andy Moore to become his partner when I met him when he came to Vancouver for a show, and we chatted about it. And then he expressed his interest to, bring Ava back to be like more independent and to switch to a different distributor, which we now use Black Hole Recordings.
Mhm.
So yeah, that was around like 2012, I think it was. So I think what prompted that whole thing was that I messaged Andy and I was like, hey, look, I'd love to get involved. I'll listen to crappy demos. I'll like just yeah, like a happy to get involved. I'll like make coffee or something like that. Even though we're like different parts of the world, but the idea was that I just want to get my foot in the door and help out. I have run a record label in the past under my roadie style alias, so like I know the ins and outs of it. But yeah, so it was kind of surprising because Andy met me and he was just kind of like, "Hey, do you want to be my partner?" And I was like, "Okay, let's do this." So that was in 2012, and now we're like 2020, and we've got we've got over 300 releases now. We've got two more sub labels. Like we've got our Chill imprint and the Ava White imprint. The events and stuff like that. We were supposed to have that event in Chicago.
Yeah.
Damn you, COVID-19. It'll happen eventually. But yeah, so we've been working hard. We have a really small but great team that helps us out. So
Yeah, so I mean, you're talking about Ava White and some of the other what do you call them, like sub labels within the
yeah,
labels. Yeah, so can you kind of tell me a little bit more about that and kind of the process?
sure. So um, we started off with Ava Recordings, um, and that is primarily like a progressive trance label. Like we have primarily kept our BPMs, below like the 138, like the uplifting trance range. Although we will occasionally have remixes that way. And then I thought to myself, like there's a market for uplifting trance. Like we enjoy it. Why don't we release some of the stuff as well too? And the name like White, like Ava White, it's just like you think like uplifting, you don't really think like black, like
Yeah.
colors wise. You think white because it's very like clean, happy, like an uplifting sort of color.
You're saying you're the label manager right now. What exactly does that involve day to day for you?
Um, a lot of everything. Like so basically, let's just go through I'll run through the process of like when we get like a good demo and we sign it. So let's say a demo goes into demos at avarecordings.com, then it gets past Yang, comes to me, and then I'm like, okay, this is good. So then I will reach out to the artists and then we'll ask for, the necessary details for the contracts. So then I'll prepare the contracts and then I'll send that over to them and then I'll schedule the track into our schedule to find out where it fits. And then when it's time to release the track, so 1 month before when we schedule it in, I will design the artwork for it and design the banners and stuff, send that to the artist, send all the assets, like the lyrics, the WAV files, the radio edits, the design work and stuff. I'll send that over to Black Hole, who will then schedule it for us. And then we'll get like a pre-save link for Spotify. I'll pass that over to the artist. And then I'll send like the email with like, this is your track, this is your write-up. I'll write the write-up as well too. And then let them know. And then Memory Loss, she handles our social media. So she will do our social media for when the release comes out, and then I'll help out here and there as well too. But yeah, that's kind of like my day to day. It's a whole lot of like preparing contracts, talking to artists, and coming up with like ideas for their releases, and also looking for like partnerships with for events
Mhm.
like our Ava Nights, and also just seeing like how we can maximize our music. And then also designing. So I design all our stuff for Ava, like the artwork, banners, flyers and stuff. And then scheduling all the materials, preparing the promos to send out. So I'll prepare that using our promo service. And then my friend Edwin, he will help schedule it. So he sends out to the A list and stuff. And then, yeah.
To get a little more specific, I mean, when you get a demo or when, Artie gets the demo, what exactly are you guys looking for within the track? Is it a feeling? Is it the brand behind the artist? I mean, let's say I'm submitting a demo today. How should I prepare to do
Okay, well, uh, I'll hop into the do's and don'ts in a second
that?
because
Okay.
it's like kind of funny actually. But in terms of music, what we're looking for, like a great melody, or like a really good feeling behind it. The production needs to be like meet our standard, which is pretty high, I'd say. Uh, and like the artist profile isn't as important as the track being solid. It does help because at the end of the day, it is a business, and we need to make sure the music sells because it costs us money to release it, and as a company, we do have to make revenue and stuff. But the most important thing is that the song is good. The song is going to make us feel something. It's going to be catchy, and the production is good. So that's kind of what we're looking for. Obviously, with the Ava White stuff, we're looking for that sort of uplifting 138 sort of classic sounding trance. We have released stuff that's not 138 like 136, but definitely a, like the faster sort of range of BPMs. So that's kind of what we do there. And then we do have the Ava Chill label, which is more just down tempo or remixes of our vocal tracks, which can be turned into something for easy listening. But yeah, that's kind of what we're looking for. And then in terms of do's and don'ts as for demo sending, because we get so many demos, there are demos that we get where we just straight up won't listen because let's say someone sends a demo and then you see like the recipient has like 50 labels on there or like 30 labels on there that they're sending to at the same time. That's like an instant like, okay, well, we're not gonna listen because they're obviously just sending it to everyone. And we just, you want to make the label feel kind of special, like you're actually sending them the demo. um, and then sometimes we've had demos come in where it's like hip hop or trap, and it's just they have not done the research on the label, and so we won't listen to that or bother responding because we may have listened thinking that it was suitable style wise for us, and then turns out it's not. But yeah, we don't really reply to those. And then also we'll get demos as well too, where people just there's no introduction, there's no hello or anything like that. It's just like a link that just chucked on there, or even worse, they've attached the file into the email.
Mhm.
And then that's kind of like, if you can't take the time to say hi and introduce yourself, then like don't be lazy. Like we have to listen to this as well too. So that we may listen and we may not respond. It depends on how many demos we get in. And I've had a demo come in recently where the guy was like, "Hey, here's a demo for you guys, only for Ava Main, no Ava White, and I want a response today because my time is like important." And so I was like,
Oh.
"Wow, damn man, like I don't know who you are, but you're sending a demo saying you want a response today."
Yeah, I've got a badass over here.
Yeah,
All right.
champion.
So we've talked
Champion.
about the don'ts. How about the do's? Let's go to a more positive side of
Okay,
this.
yeah. The don'ts are usually more exciting.
Yeah.
So the do's, I think it's great to say like, hi, my name is so and so. I'm from here. Like I'm from. So okay, if I'm sending a demo and I'd be like, hey, and I'll try to find the name of the A&R, or if I don't know the name of the A&R, I'd be like, hey, Ava Recordings. My name's Samna. I'm a Canadian DJ producer. I've had releases on these labels, and I've had support by Armin van Buuren and stuff. Here's my latest track for your consideration. I hope you guys like it, and I hope to hear from you soon. Have a great week, and then send in that, and yeah, And I think that's great because it introduces yourself. It's personable. It gives them a little bit of insight into your accolades, and where you've released, and adds a bit of credibility to you that makes them want to listen, because you might have one chance and like you want them to click that link.
Mhm.
So and then a secret SoundCloud link or a Dropbox link, so they can listen to it and stream it without downloading it. You don't want to attach it for sure.
Gotcha.
Um,
So it sounds like short and sweet is the best. Introduce yourself, brief bio, build some credibility, and then a private SoundCloud link would be best.
yeah, yeah,
Awesome. So I know
yeah.
you're talking a bit about credibility. What advice would you give to like brand new producers who haven't released on any label before? Do you have any best practices? I mean, what would you tell your younger self?
Yeah, so if you don't have the accolades to add on there, definitely start with like, "Hey, I'm so and so from here. I've got this track for your consideration," and then maybe just like one sentence about it, like it's a progressive trance track with like an emotional pluck melody and energetic bass line. I hope you guys like it, and I hope you'll consider it. So maybe yeah, just write something that kind of sells the track a little bit if you can't sell yourself, but don't oversell as well too, because most a lot of times when we get a demo where they're like, this is awesome, you will like this, 90% of the time we won't.
Right. So obviously you have a ton of experience. You've been producing for a while. You have a new album coming out. Tell us
Yeah,
about
I
that.
do. Super excited. I've been working on it for a really long time. I've been wanting to do an album for some time, and I think it's great because albums allow you to step out of your comfort zone a little bit and experiment a bit, because you're creating like a larger body of work, and out of the, I don't know, like 14 tracks, you can experiment and stuff. So uh, yeah, I've been wanting to do one for a while, and I finally get to release an album. So it's gonna actually be released on Black Hole Recordings, but in partnership with Ava. Um, so some of the singles that have been leading up to the album have been released on Ava, some on Magic Music, which is Black Hole's one of Black Hole's sublabels. Um, but yeah, that's coming out in May, and I'm so excited for it because it's yeah, it's been a like over a year of like hard work, and I can't wait to show people it.
That's awesome. So what can we expect from the album anyway? I mean, are there a lot of vocal tracks? What's been released so far? Can you tell us a little more?
Yeah, well, there's a lot of vocal tracks, a lot, and so far we've released, how many singles have we released? Uh, okay, so there was, started off with my collab with Jennifer and A, Stars Collide, and it was my track with LTN called Dreamcatcher, and then it was Long Way Down with Roxanne Emery and Enzo, and then the first year with Carrie, which has like two versions. Like the original is like a chilled sort of poppy version, which kind
And we
of
got
brings
the
me back to the whole being able to experiment a bit, which is cool, and an uplifting mix. So two different newer styles for me that I don't produce often. And then the next single is coming out 1 week from today, so it'll be out on April the 3rd, and it's called Snowstorm, uh, and that'll be my fifth single. And then there's one more single before the album comes out, which will be on April 24th, and that one has a music video as well too. So
nice.
that's super exciting. And then the album comes out in May. Um, so yeah, six singles before the album comes out, and then there will be some additional singles with remixes afterwards. But out of the 14, I think it's 14 tracks on my album, there are let me think, 11 are vocal tracks.
Well, I'm really looking forward to the new album. For everyone listening or watching, if people wanted to learn more about you, how can they do that?
So I'm on almost every social media imaginable, and it's at Som the Music. So like Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, SoundCloud. I just started a Twitch channel, so that's
Nice.
twitch.tv/Som the Music. So I'll be doing like track walkthroughs and like DJ sets and stuff, and just
Oh,
like
that's exciting.
chats. Yeah, yeah. I did one broadcast where I just And I didn't know that on Twitch you had to check off something where it saves the broadcast so people can rewatch it. So right now there's nothing on there, but I did a couple broadcasts, and one of them I just started working on a remix, which I finished now just from scratch. As so people were just chatting with me and watching me work on the remix. So I'll probably do more stuff like that as well too. Um, and maybe a little bit of gaming. I don't know, but it'll be mostly music and production.
Yeah, definitely
Uh,
gonna check out your Twitch. And again, that's Somna, Somna. I'll be sure to include that in the notes for
yeah,
this too.
Somna Music for
Somna Music.
yeah,
Gotcha. Awesome.
on just
Well,
about every social.
awesome. Thanks again. Somna, really happy to have you here.
Yeah,
Appreciate you
no
doing
problem.
this and taking time out of your day to talk to us.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. Like we're all on lockdown anyways. Like, what else am I gonna do?